What's up, everybody? I thought it would be a good time to talk about Summer League expectations for your Toronto Raptors. Not just breaking down the schedule and the roster and the calendar. If you want that, go and check out Zulfi's video. He did something last week, a really good breakdown of what to expect from everybody, why Grady might not be playing. But for me, it's more about specific individual expectations and maybe one key thing to look out for some of these players. We'll start just by saying, first and foremost, that Summer League is not indicative. There is no true correlation between Summer League basketball and how their game translates to the NBA and to the Toronto Raptors. It's very hard to say, well, I mean, look, Raptors fans know this very well. Ochai Agbaji struggled immensely at Summer League last year. Comes in to the Raptors roster the year after, last season had the best season of his career. And so there's not too much correlation. There are certain archetypes that can thrive really, really well in Summer League. There are certain G League guys, and we'll talk about those in a second, that can really impact the game in Summer League because it's similar to G League basketball, but it's harder for that to translate into the NBA when there's a specific role. And guys like Ochai, even honestly, sometimes guys like Grady, who do most of their work off of the ball, Summer League isn't as advantageous for them because the sets aren't built up for them to run off-ball actions consistently and get them looks. It's just less of a spaced out game. It's more, to be honest with you, it's more like LA Fitness runs. You know what I mean? And while there is some organization to it, more organization obviously than LA Fitness runs, it's hard to glean too much from any of it. That said, there are tangible things that you can look for and say, hey, well, this guy did this. There's steps here, and maybe that does translate to the NBA. Maybe that does translate to what the Raptors want from them next season. Samson did a great mailbag yesterday talking about the optimistic outlook for every single player on the Raptors roster, basically detailing how they can get to their quote-unquote ceiling for next season. I think that's a great episode. That's sort of a sister episode to what this is, but this is more fine-tuned to the younger guys, to the Summer League roster, and what we can expect. Okay, let's get into it. First guy on my list is Jonathan Mogbo. So Mogbo, I think the one thing that I would watch out for, the one thing I'm intrigued by and I want to see improvement in is the interior finishing. Mogbo last year really struggled as a finisher, in my opinion. Wasn't the greatest. Here, I'll pull up his shots just right now. So at the rim, Mogbo shot 54%. He shot 39% on layups last year. And on hook shots and runners, he was 32%, 39%. So basically in that short range area and at the basket, he struggled immensely. I think part of that is touch. I know the Raptors implored him to dunk the basketball more frequently towards the end of the year and to be more physical in order to not have to compensate for the lack of touch around the basket. I would like to see a more soft and refined touch when it comes to floaters, when it comes to, catching in that short range area and putting up a push shot, or in the dunker spot and being able to do that little floater. Doing it over defenders. These are the things that I'm looking for Jonathan Mogbo, because I think interior finishing is incredibly important for his game. Yes, he's working on his three-point shot, and that's a constant evolution for a guy who didn't take that many threes throughout college. There was some tangible growth there throughout the year with the Raptors, but for the most part, in order for him to get minutes, he is a clear-cut, positive defender already in the NBA. We know that he can bring that at the NBA level. He's a very good offensive rebounder, very good defensive rebounder, can crash the glass, can run in transition, can make plays in transition as well because of his feel as a passer. But the touch and the finishing is something that absolutely needs to improve. And truthfully, the numbers that I just mentioned to you guys, 54% at the rim, 38% on hook shots, 39% on layups, that's just not good enough for a guy who's like your tweener forward / small ball center. You just need better numbers from that. You need double that. 39% on layups is just not good. It needs to be like 60% for a guy that's basically a nominal center for you in certain lineups. So Jonathan Mogbo, the thing I would like to look for outside of everything else is to see more refined touch as an interior finisher. That's the main quality that you should watch out for in the Summer League. And again, footnote here, if it doesn't happen, if you don't see it, it's okay. But it would be something that I would watch for that is tangible for the NBA and for his next season. Jacoby Walter. Really excited to see Jacoby in Summer League. Obviously, again, I think he's a really good defender, had a pretty good defensive season as a rookie, especially guarding in isolations. I think he's a guy who, I believe Samson was mentioning it the other day, like gained muscle throughout the season, which is a really, really good testament to how much he works on his body. I think that will translate really well to his second season of his career. To me, I want to see a level of shot making from Jacoby Walter that I think would be really beneficial to his second season with the Raptors heading into his sophomore year. And if we pull up some of his shot types and shot data, he shot 35% on jump shots last season, 37% on catch and shoot threes. These are 3-point percentages, by the way. 37% on catch and shoot threes. Most of those were unguarded. He shot 40% on unguarded threes. He shot 23% on dribble jumpers that were threes. Not very good. So working on that pull-up percentage. Shot 33% on dribble jumpers in general, and that includes mid-range jump shots. He shot 40% on dribble jump shots that were pull-ups, and he shot 45% at the rim, 42%. I think generally, Jacoby has an imagination and a creativity to what he wants to do offensively. He doesn't shy away from physicality, and that translated in certain parts to what his game was offensively last season, being able to get downhill and try and draw a foul. He would get defenders up with that pump fake and then draw a foul. Like, that is something that I could see translating moving forward. In Summer League, you want to see a more refined approach offensively, because I think sometimes that imagination and creativity that he does exhibit offensively can go astray, can kind of lead him into tough shots and difficult looks, and you want him to be a little bit more refined. His bag work, if you will, is something that I'm looking forward to. Also, general shot making, refining that three-point shot, going out there and like scoring 15, 20 points a night for the first 2 or 3 games, whatever amount of games he ends up playing in the Summer League. That's what you should be looking for with Jacoby Walter. Just being able to truthfully dominate from an offensive level. I think that's what I'm looking for, especially because I've seen it happen at the G League level. Watching him with the 905 last season, there were moments and times where it was like, man, this game at this level is way too easy for him offensively. He got to the basket at will. The jump shot was flowing. He was really thriving in the 905 when he got opportunity. I think that will translate to Summer League basketball. I think the fact that, like, generally it's a more rapid pace and he can kind of work in transition more frequently adds, and it kind of is a benefit to his game. So I want to see shot making from him. I think I know what we expect from him defensively. Jacoby will next season be a pretty important part to the Raptors' defensive infrastructure, especially at the point of attack. But I want to see how much more they can get from the shot making department. Not only off the catch, but working to create his own shot, working to get downhill, working to finish at the basket. These are the areas of the game that I want to see from Jacoby Walter. Okay, Jamal Shead. My guy Jamal. Let me pull up my notes here for Jamal just to make sure I got him. So Jamal, generally, I think his defensive upside is clear. He wasn't a positive impact defender last season. In fact, the Raptors were 3.5 points per 100 possessions better on defense when Jamal was off the floor. And I think part of that was because in certain matchups, he was physically outmatched. Of course, he's a smaller defender, and so part of that is really like figuring out how he can succeed as a smaller defender. He has quick feet, but sometimes those quick feet and like his hips kind of evade him, in the sense that he gets blown by often, or he might get physically outmatched and someone's just able to bully him to the basket. These are things that Jamal has to learn to figure out defensively at the pro level. but the effort and tenacity at the point of attack is there. It's just about refining it to the point where you can pick and choose your spots. So defensively, seeing that, again, I've seen this guy be awesome defensively in the G League. So I think it's just about figuring out how to do it at the professional level against much more talented scorers and much more talented offensive weapons, and doing it at a variety of positions. But offensively is what I'm looking from Jamal Shead to really fine tune. Again, looking at this, the numbers here, shot 51% at the rim, 51% on layups, 45% on runners. The three-point shot, off the catch was 35%, which was pretty good for Jamal Shead, truthfully. 25% on pull-up threes, which is not great. I want to see a more refined approach offensively for him and to become a more efficient offensive player. Obviously the transition game and him being able to set the tone offensively for this Raptors team is something that I think he had last season. Dictating pace, being able to push in transition, and that itself will translate in Summer League. Jamal is also a guy who, that archetype of player, typically ends up playing better at Summer League just because the ball is in the point guard's hands more often. It's a ball handler's type of game, and there's just more eyeballs on that guy in Summer League to be able to do well. My thing that I'm looking for is how much can he dominate defensively? Can he really stay in front of his man? Can he work against more physically dominant players? Has he learned new tricks in his bag to be able to dominate more defensively? That's what I'm looking for with Jamal Shead. And, of course, any craft finishing-wise would be great. Collin Murray-Boyles. I'm very excited to watch Collin Murray-Boyles. CMB is going to be awesome. So there's a couple different ways to look at this. CMB's game offensively, you think of the post touches. He was near the top of college basketball last year in terms of post efficiency and post frequency. So he loved working out of the post. I think that translates really well in Summer League basketball where, there's G League guys, there's rookies, there's maybe a couple of second year or third year guys, but physically, these are guys who are similar to where, I guess, both athletically and both age-wise, to where Collin Murray-Boyles is physically. So he can dominate at that level with his physicality. My question is, how much can he really dominate this level of competition? Because I think one of the main questions I have for him offensively, while he was an excellent driver and a great finisher at the rim, can he do that at the next level consistently at the size he has? 6'6.5", I believe, was his measurement. He obviously has that length to be able to finish. He, as opposed to Jonathan Mogbo, has beautiful soft touch. You watch some of his layups and his driving opportunities with South Carolina last year. The ability to take a bump and then finish off the glass is incredible. And he does it at certain speeds where you're like, okay, there's a clear way that this could translate in the NBA. I want to see him dominate Summer League because of that. I think this is a good arena, no pun intended, for him to be able to really dominate. Summer League itself, that type of basketball, is conducive to players who like to work in the post. And I could envision a world where Collin gets to like 15 points, 9 rebounds, and a couple of blocks or something along the lines of that, just because of how physically imposing he can be. So I would like for him to physically impose himself dominantly in Summer League and see how far that takes him. Also, there's the defensive playmaking aspect, but I really do think that's going to translate from day one. We're going to see some crazy plays, some great sequences from him defensively. But what I want to see, that one thing I'm looking for CMB, is how he can physically dominate at the level of Summer League. Does that mean it'll translate to the NBA where the athletes are bigger and there's more physicality and you're playing against older competition and all that type of stuff? No, not necessarily, but it's a good indicator that the touch is there, that the driving ability and the aggression is there. And I think that's one thing I want to see from CMB from day one in Summer League. Okay. Alijah Martin, the other rookie here, second-round pick for the Toronto Raptors. Again, Cody Wiles had a great video essay recently breaking down what Alijah could potentially bring to this Raptors team, and maybe if he cracks the rotation. There's obviously a tangible skill that he provides on the defensive end that can translate to what the Raptors want to do in terms of point of attack aggression, in terms of high pickup points, in terms of using his length and athleticism to get out and running in transition. He obviously has a good three-point shot. For me, I obviously the defensive playmaking at this level, I believe, will be there because he's an older player. He's a 5-year college guy, and so he's played against guys at this age and this level and this skill set pretty frequently, and he's done well against this competition. I think defensively, we will see those moments already from day one. For me, it's the shot making and what we see shot making wise. Generally, he was a pretty good three-point shooter. I posted this on Twitter, basically a 10-minute clip of just him taking ridiculous shots for Florida last year. Deep threes, on the movement, kind of catching, curling off of 2 pin downs, catching it, pump, sidestep, 3. That type of talent as a three-point shooter, I want to see more here. Now, that being said, this could be a situation where it's similar to Ochai Agbaji or Grady Dick, where because he's more of an off-ball player, you might not see the fruits of your labor in Summer League because, again, those type of players don't necessarily thrive in Summer League because it's not, hey, what can you do off ball? It's what can you do with the ball in your hands. Maybe Elijah can do some stuff. I think in transition he'll do really well in Summer League. But in terms of the shot making category, I'd be really interested to see what caliber of three-point shooting he can be. What level of a three-point shooter he can be at the Summer League. That's the one question I have with Alijah Martin. Very excited to watch him, though, just because he's a multi-year guy, and it's like, hey, if he really pops off, this is a guy who people can be really excited about. Fans can be really excited about. Jamison Battle. On the move shot making. That's something that I've been harping on a lot for Jamison generally, is just being able to shoot off of movement. Just pulling it up here. So, yeah, his play types, looking at off of screens, okay? Off of screens, he shot 37% from 3. In transition, he shot 45% from 3. On spot-ups, he shot 37% from 3. But if you dig in a little bit deeper last season, he shot 39% off the catch, 37% on guarded threes, 43% on unguarded threes. The dude absolutely shot the leather off of the ball, even dribble jumpers. So, obviously Jamison Battle didn't have a ton of dribble jumpers, but by dribble jumpers literally just means if he catches it, the defender flies by, he takes a little power dribble and shoots the ball. That technically counts as a dribble jumper. And he shot 43% on those too. So really talented shooting generally. But what I have noticed is off of movement, like running jumpers, he isn't necessarily the greatest at. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to. Sorry, I got interrupted by a phone call. But yeah, generally, look, I think Jamison Battle, the question that I have is off of movement, running into your jumpers, right? Coming down off of 2 pin downs and curling into action, similar to what I just said about Alijah Martin and the shot-making talent that he showed at Florida. Displaying that exact same thing would be great for Jamison Battle. That's generally the one thing I'm looking for with Battle. If he can really hang, and if he pops off and if he has like a 20, 25-point game, this is a guy who can probably earn himself some money in the sense that he now has a partial guarantee. That contract gets fully guaranteed right before Summer League. He probably ends up with a roster spot. But to me, it's how much more can he crack into the Raptors rotation? Because they obviously have Grady Dick. They obviously have Jacoby Walter. If he pops off in Summer League, I think training camp will be very interesting between those three. Okay. Chucky Hepburn. Very fascinated to see how Chucky Hepburn does. Again, this is the type of player that could pop off in Summer League just because there's an opportunity with the ball in their hands. And I think Chucky will automatically have the ball in his hands. In Louisville, he had the ball in his hands quite frequently. Can knock down his shots, but a wildly talented defensive player. I want to see how he thrives on the defensive end. Again, we've seen really talented, like Jamal Shead in Houston was a wildly talented defensive player in college for 4 years. Chucky Hepburn, Defensive Player of the Year. Louisville, great defender. I believe he had like 2.5 steals a game last season. That's awesome. How does that translate against professional basketball players, against summer league competition, against guys who have been in the G League, against guys who are maybe second or third year players, etc. Like, how does that translate? Especially because he's not the tallest player, very similar to Jamal. He's like 6'2", maybe 6'1" on a good day, whatever, or 6'2" on a good day. How does he deal with the physicality? Is he able to impact defensively despite the size disadvantage? Can he be a guy who makes defensive plays? That's my question with Chucky Hepburn, because I know he's going to have a lot of opportunity and runway with the 905. How does that translate to summer league basketball? Again, I think Chucky could be a guy who actually pops the hell off because of the amount of time that the ball will be in his hands. But yeah, I'm down. Like, dude, oh my God. I'm just looking at his pick and roll numbers right now. So Chucky last season for Louisville had 206 possessions as a pick and roll ball handler. He ranked in the 93rd percentile in college basketball in terms of pick and roll efficiency. So dude is wildly good with the ball in his hands. I imagine that will translate offensively in summer league, because those are the type of guys that just really thrive in summer league basketball. You got the ball in your hands. You got to create something. There's a lot of pick and roll that gets run in summer league too. He's a guy who can really pop off. The defensive side is how I want to see him thrive and him making plays. That's where I'm really curious about with Chucky Hepburn. Ulrich Chomche. Ulrich, my guy. Look, I watched him a lot last year for the 905. In between hosting, I would try to watch and see what Ulrich was doing. Wildly talented shot blocker. What was it? He averaged nearly 3 blocks a game last year for the 905. The thing with me is not necessarily the defense. I think he'll be a pretty good defensive playmaker. Even last year in summer league, there were moments where you're like, wow, this guy's a ridiculous shot blocker. He has to get his timing right and not foul as much, but generally like wildly talented shot blocker. So I think that will be there and present in summer league. Maybe more dominant would be great. To me, is the craft and finishing inside. Hands, right? Catching lobs and dunking immediately, or catching, if there's a pick and roll with Chucky or Jamal and they do that little wraparound pass, like grabbing it from a low point and going up and finishing it is really important. Craft around the basket, whether, they hit him in the post and he's able to do a little hook shot or a runner in the short roll area, is something that I'm looking for with Ulrich Chomche. Refining his hands, refining his touch around the basket, much like Jonathan Mogbo, in the sense that you want him to finish and you want him to be a better finisher. But for Ulrich, that's a massive part of his game. It's being able to be a solid rim runner because of his size, because of his physicality, because of how good and talented he can potentially be as a rim runner. You want him to really fine-tune that aspect and show that he can do it in summer league. So Ulrich, for me, it's the finishing, it's getting to the basket, working in pick and rolls, his pick and roll craft in general. So screen, roll, dive to the basket, how connected of emotion all that is, very key for Ulrich Chomche. AJ Lawson and Collin Castleton. Again, these are two guys who have had experience in summer league before, who are really, really good G League players. AJ was obviously a G League All-Star last year. These are guys who have been here and done that. To me, especially with their spots on the roster, kind of like there's a decision to be had here in terms of can they make this roster, especially because there's no more roster spots here. The Raptors would have to do some maneuvering. This is a chance for them to go out and dominate. This is a chance for them to go out and show that not only do they belong, but they belong on the roster, that they are better than a Jamison Battle or a Jamal Shead or Ulrich Chomche or Jonathan Mogbo, that they can provide more. Will that happen? And will that really change the minds of players or the coaching staff to give them a spot over someone else? Maybe not. I think the roster, for the most part, is set, and I would be pretty surprised if AJ or Collin Castleton make it. Maybe AJ makes it on a two-way. There's an opportunity there. We'll see what happens with Alijah Martin and how the Raptors contractually want to use him. They might slot him into that final two-way spot. They might give him a guaranteed roster spot. We'll see what happens. There's still a lot of fluidity there between him, Jamison Battle, and AJ Lawson and Collin Castleton. That said, them dominating in Summer League not only helps them with their position with the Raptors, but elsewhere. I can't tell you the amount of times where I've been at Summer League and I'll be watching, a random Chicago Bulls scout watching Raptors versus Hawks. And, 2 weeks later, that Bull scout has, or the Bulls have signed a player on the Raptors or on the Hawks that on those Summer League rosters. That's something that happens very, very frequently. In fact, the Raptors did it with Javon Freeman Liberty. They played Javon. I believe it was a Raptors Bulls game. And a day later, they signed him to a two-way contract because Javon was awesome and he was open to the opportunity of coming to the Raptors. And so for AJ, for Collin, it's like, hey, make the most of this opportunity, absolutely dominate, figure out a way that you can kind of show not only the Raptors, but the rest of the team how you can dominate at the G League level, how you can dominate and earn yourself a roster spot for someone that might need you guys. That's what I would like from AJ Lawson and Colin Castleton. Okay. Truthfully, for the rest of the guys, obviously there are some 905 players here, Quincy Guerrier, Tyreek Key. Those guys are guys who likely are like going to be back with the 905 next season. Clifford Omarui, who is Eugene Omarui's brother, he has an Exhibit 10 deal, so he'll be at training camp likely. He's a center, so there's opportunity for him to get run. Maybe he ends up actually working his way into a two-way deal. That would be awesome. For these guys, it's like pop off to the point where the Raptors have to give you a contract, but also, make decisions hard for this Raptors coaching staff. I think ultimately when you are a Tyson Degenhart or any Juanina Tite Jones, like the thing here is to make the most out of the opportunity. Clifford Omarui, really, I have a friend who's really, really high on Clifford Omarui, and he's like, hey, maybe he can make this Raptors team. Go out and show it. Like, let's see it. Let's see that happen, because that's what happened to Jamison Battle. Jamison Battle was like a guy who made it to the roster because he popped the hell off in Summer League, and he got an opportunity with Raptors training camp, and they were like, you know what, we'll give this guy a two-way, and Jamison was so good that he earned himself this partially guaranteed contract and likely a roster spot next season. So do that. Be a guy who can do that. That's my main takeaway here, is if they're giving you a two-way, like they did with Chucky Hepburn, like cook, get an opportunity. There is also one open two-way slot here for the Raptors. Make the most of that opportunity and fight for that two-way spot. That's what I'm looking at for some of these guys. And also, a couple of these guys are older. Quincy Guerrier, he's a 99 baby. I can't believe I just said older. He's 4 years younger than me. But yeah, like some of these guys are sort of veteran-type players that can be good for you. Again, these guys are fighting for opportunities at the G League level, fighting for opportunities against for scouts professionally. That's what you want to see from the rest of this roster. But for me, the guys that I listed out, those skills are what I'm looking for. Tangentially, on the side, obviously I would love to see this Raptors team do well in the Summer League and win and get an opportunity to raise a Summer League trophy. That would be awesome. But I think for the most part, you're looking at these individual skills and how these specific skills can translate into the NBA level, because it's not about the overall game. It's not like, holy crap, Collin Murray-Boyles, he popped off. He had 25, 5 and 5. He's going to be rookie of the year. That's not necessarily how it works. But if Collin is like physically imposing himself, he looks like a man amongst boys out there, getting to the basket, finishing, making plays defensively. You're like, oh man, like if he's dominating against G League competition, against Summer League competition, against second, first, and third year guys, he's going to do well in the NBA. That's the sort of thing that you can take away from Summer League. It's hard to take away too much, but those are the things that you can take away. Folks, as always, like, comment, subscribe, do the things you guys usually do to get this video out to other people. We really do appreciate the support that you guys have had for Raptors Republic. It's been a joy to cover the Raptors for you and to do it all off season. Appreciate you guys tapping in. We'll see you guys later. Take care.